Let's take this tone. And then this one. They're both objectively playing at the same sound pressure level, but do they sound like they're at the same volume? This phenomenon was the basis for studies about what are called the equal loudness contours. Now, where it's specifically relevant to you is that our judgment of tonal balance depends on the level that we hear it. And for several reasons that expand beyond the scope of this video, louder seems to sound subjectively better to our ears, even if there's nothing else different about the signal. So what if there was a way that we could make better production, mixing, and mastering decisions by sort of removing the influence of that bias on our ears? Well, that is where automatic gain compensation comes in, or MAG-C by Melda, which you can wield free of charge. So let's take a look at how it works. So this is kind of what the plugin looks like. On the left, you'll see where the input gain is. The middle will be the sidechain input gain, and the right columns will be the output gain. And then you'll also see sort of the gain compensation that it's applying, similar to what you'd find with a compressor. Now, as far as the settings go, there's a couple of things that I like to do. And the first thing is to increase the range amount, which is basically how much it can actually adjust the gain based on the input. And then I also like to increase the speed, which basically is how quickly it will compensate for the gain based on that input. And the last thing I like to change is just the psychoacoustic pre-filtering. I like to turn that on just because it basically takes into account some of those equal loudness contours that bias our perception of the audio. And so it can be even more accurate in terms of gain, which I kind of like. So let's say we were in the mixing process and we had these vocals and we wanted to use some EQ to increase a few of the bands and the overall output. What we need to do is set up the sidechain input first, because we need the plugin to listen to the input stage rather than the output stage to be able to compensate for that gain properly. So what I'm going to do is go to the sidechain dropdown and then just select CYBT, which is just the name of the vocal track that I have here. And so now when I play these vocals and I start adding in some gain here to different bands, you'll start to see it work on the right there. And we can make love through the summer. Yeah, can watch a couple movies to the sun. And you'll notice there's a lot of similarities with compression, which is essentially what it's doing. So if we play this audio and I take it off. What's your name? What's your number? Can I take you home to my mama? And put it back on, we can make a much more fair comparison about the changes that we're making to, the spectrum. And this works especially well too with things like saturation, to make sure that, the harmonics are the things that we want to add and not just the gain itself. Another of my favorite ways to use this is like on the drums bus. So if you had some drums like this, and you start kind of adding in some saturation, which is one of my favorite things to do with drums in general, you can get a much clearer and more fair view of the way that you're processing the sounds. Sometimes with plugins too, you kind of have to manually set the output gain to kind of match where it was before. And this way you don't have to do any of that. You can just set it, forget it, and then start adding in a lot of the processing that you like to add without, that sort of bias that we're talking about. Another great situation to use this is actually in the mastering process. So, if you had a song like this that was unmastered, you can test out different parts of your processing in real time. So if we wanted to add in a little bit of compression here, we could do a little A/B comparison really easily. And this is especially nice too if you're not used to how compression sounds, especially in the mastering process. It can be a great way to A/B it and make sure that that your levels aren't fooling you into thinking that it sounds better than it actually does. A great option too is that you can actually quickly hear the original track without any processing on it, just by activating this sidechain listen option, right? So this is the original. This is after. Again, just helping you make better decisions, especially with something as delicate as the mastering process. Now, if you're somebody who does a lot of sound design, or you like to make patches from scratch, or just add in a lot of effects in real time, this can be a great way to both save your ears and also to give you a better idea of how you're changing the sound without affecting the volume at all. For example, if you do something like adding in a really, really resonant filter, so I'm using auto filter here, and I just went to bandpass filter and I turned the resonance way up here. And then we turn it off. We don't have to worry about adjusting that gain. And in another case too, like if we had some very strange sounding reverb, it will continue to compensate for it and give us some really cool sounds. And a lot of times too, these presets will have, different macros, and so you can adjust the gain without having to worry about anything, right? So it's a really great thing to have there at the end there, just so it's constantly adjusting for a lot of the things that you're doing, bringing up quieter sounds and bringing down louder ones. So this is an absolutely fantastic plugin to have in your arsenal, especially since it's free. And you might even already have it inside of the Melda free effects bundle, but you just haven't used it yet. So let me know your experience with this. And if you have any questions about any of the routing that I mentioned, please let me know down in a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, happy music making. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.